The morning was busy at the office of Kingswell Industries. Phones were ringing, people were walking fast, and printers were running nonstop. It was just another normal day. But no one knew that today, someone special was about to enter their lives. A young woman walked into the front lobby. Her name was Amara. She looked around nervously but smiled politely. She wore a simple blue shirt and black pants. Her shoes were old but clean. Her hair was tied back in a neat ponytail. She carried a small black bag and a file in her hand. Amara had just been hired as a new assistant in the accounts department. The receptionist, an older woman named Mrs. Clare, looked up from her desk and gave her a small smile. "You must be the new girl," she said. "Yes, I'm Amara," she replied kindly. "Take the elevator to the 3rd floor, room 304. That's the accounts section." Amara thanked her and walked slowly toward the elevator. Her steps were quiet, her eyes looking around with curiosity and a little fear. Everyone around her seemed busy and dressed in expensive clothes. No one looked like her. She felt small, but she reminded herself why she was there. Her father had always told her, "Be proud of who you are. Let your work speak for you." As she stepped into the elevator, 2 men in suits looked her up and down. One of them whispered something to the other. They laughed quietly. Amara heard it, but she kept her head high. She had faced worse. When she reached the 3rd floor, she found her new manager waiting, Mr. Grant. He was tall, wore an expensive suit, and had sharp eyes. He looked at her with a strange smile. "So, you're the new assistant?" he asked. "Yes, sir," Amara answered. He looked her up and down like he was judging her clothes. You look different. I hope you know how to use a computer." Some of the other employees chuckled. Amara felt her cheeks get warm, but she stayed calm. "Yes, sir. I worked 2 years in accounting before," she replied politely. Mr. Grant didn't look impressed. "We'll see." He showed her to her desk, a small corner at the back of the office. It was away from the others. Old computer, no chair with wheels. Amara noticed it, but she didn't complain. She smiled and thanked him. From the moment she sat down, people watched her. Some whispered, some laughed. No one offered help. No one welcomed her properly. But Amara kept working. Her fingers moved quickly over the keyboard. Her eyes stayed on the screen. At lunch, she walked into the cafeteria. She had packed a homemade lunch, rice and lentils. As she opened her box, 2 women sitting nearby laughed. "Smells funny," one of them whispered. Amara heard it. She looked at them, smiled gently, and said, "It's my mom's recipe. She says food tastes better when cooked with love." The girls didn't reply. They just looked away. Amara ate in silence. She didn't try to fit in. She didn't try to impress anyone. She only wanted to do her work well. But that made her stand out even more. Back at the office, Mr. Grant came to her desk with a stack of files. "Let's see if you can handle these. Enter all this data by the end of the day." Amara nodded. "Yes, sir." She didn't complain about the extra work. She just started right away. The day passed. While others chatted, took coffee breaks, and scrolled on their phones, Amara worked. She barely looked up from her screen. By 5 p.m., she had finished all the files. She quietly walked to Mr. Grant's desk and handed him the completed forms. "What's this?" he asked, surprised. "The data you asked for. It's all done, sir." Mr. Grant looked confused. He didn't expect her to finish it so quickly. He opened the files and checked. Everything was correct. Not a single mistake. He didn't say thank you. He just nodded. "Fine. You may go." Amara smiled and left. As she stepped outside the building, the sun was beginning to set. Her first day was over. It wasn't easy. People had judged her, laughed at her, ignored her, but she had done her job with dignity. What they didn't know was, Amara was not just a simple assistant. She came from a family with deep roots. Her father was someone powerful, someone respected. But she didn't use his name. She didn't want special treatment. She wanted to earn her place. She wanted her work to speak louder than her background. And soon, it would. Very soon, the people in that office would discover who she really was. But for now, she walked home quietly, calm, strong, and ready for tomorrow. The next morning, Amara walked into the office with the same calm face. Her clothes were simple again, neat but not expensive. She wore no makeup, no jewelry, just the same quiet confidence in her eyes. She greeted the receptionist with a polite good morning and made her way to the third floor. In the office, some workers were already gathered around the coffee machine. As soon as they saw her, they started whispering again. "She's back early," one man said. "Must need money badly," another joked. "I bet she doesn't even know how to use Excel," one woman added. They all laughed quietly, thinking she couldn't hear. But Amara did hear. Still, she didn't react. She walked past them slowly, with dignity. She reached her desk and began her work. Mr. Grant entered the office 30 minutes later. His eyes scanned the room and stopped at Amara. He looked annoyed. "You're early again?" he asked sharply. "Yes, sir," Amara said. "I like to start fresh before the noise begins." He didn't like her answer. It made her sound more mature than he expected. He waved a hand. "All right, let's see what you can handle today." He gave her more files, twice as much as yesterday. He was testing her, or maybe punishing her. Amara looked at the files calmly. "I'll finish them before lunch," she said softly. The room became quiet. Before lunch. Everyone knew that amount of work usually took the whole day. 2 desks away, a young intern named Samir watched her. He had joined the company 3 weeks ago. He had never seen anyone work like her. No chatting, no complaints, just pure focus. At lunch, Amara sat in the same corner again. She opened her homemade food quietly. This time, Samir walked up and asked, "Mind if I sit here?" She looked up, surprised but smiled. "Of course, go ahead." Samir sat down and looked at her food. "Smells nice," he said. "It's my mom's cooking," Amara replied. They ate quietly for a while. Then Samir asked, "Why did you choose this company?" Amara looked at him for a moment and then said, "I wanted to learn how people treat those they think are small." Samir didn't understand at first, but something about her answer felt deep. Back in the office, Amara completed all the files, just like she promised. Mr. Grant came to her desk, clearly expecting mistakes. "You're done already?" he asked. "Yes, sir. Would you like to check them now?" He frowned and opened the files. His eyes moved quickly from one page to another. He couldn't believe it. Everything was perfect again. No errors, no missing data. He said nothing. He just walked away. Amara returned to her next task without waiting for praise. Later that day, Mr. Grant was called to a meeting with the Vice President of Operations. The VP, Mr. Collins, looked serious. "We've been getting reports from the accounts team," he said, "about a new assistant. Amara, I believe." Mr. Grant shifted uncomfortably. "Yes, sir. She's new." Mr. Collins leaned forward. "Apparently, she's finished all her work perfectly and faster than anyone on your team. Do you agree?" Mr. Grant hesitated. "Yes, sir. She's surprisingly efficient." "Good. Then treat her with respect," Mr. Collins said firmly. "We don't want talent to feel unwelcomed here." Mr. Grant nodded quickly. "Of course, sir." But inside, he felt anger. Who was this girl to make him look weak in front of upper management? That evening, as the office closed, Amara stood near the elevator waiting. 2 senior staff walked past her, talking loudly. "Did you hear?" Mr. Collins spoke to Grant about that girl. "Seriously, what's so special about her?" "No idea, but she must know someone. You think she's connected." Amara heard it, but again said nothing. She stepped into the elevator and pressed the ground floor button. As the doors closed, her calm eyes looked ahead. She didn't come here to show power. She came to observe. And the people who had judged her would soon learn she was not someone to underestimate. That night at home, Amara sat with her father at the dinner table. He was an older man, quiet but wise. He looked at her with pride. "How's your second day?" he asked. Amara smiled gently. "Just as expected. They laugh. They doubt. But I'm patient." Her father nodded. "Remember, child, you don't need to raise your voice. Your actions will speak louder." Amara reached out and took his hand. "I will not shame your name, Pava. I promise." He squeezed her hand and said nothing more. But what no one in the office knew, not even Samir, was that Amara's father was Mr. Akil Rahman, a powerful business investor and one of the secret stakeholders in Kingswell Industries. He had built companies, rescued failing ones, and trained many CEOs. But he had always kept his personal life private. Amara was his only daughter. He wanted her to understand life from the bottom before she rose to the top. And she agreed. But if anyone ever disrespected her beyond limit, they would face a truth they weren't ready for. And that truth was coming closer with each passing day. The next few days in the office were strange. Amara came early every morning. She worked quietly and finished her tasks faster than anyone else. She never complained. She never showed off. She just did her work with focus and peace. But her calm nature began to bother some people, especially Mr. Grant, the department manager. He didn't like how others were starting to notice her. He didn't like how senior staff were praising her work. And most of all, he didn't like that she never reacted to his cold behavior. One morning, Mr. Grant called a private meeting with his assistant, Lena, and 2 other senior staff members, Rohan and Priya. "She's trying to show us up," Mr. Grant said, pacing in his office. "She's just doing her job," Priya replied, a bit unsure. "No," he snapped. "She's too perfect. No mistakes. No questions. You don't find people like that without a reason." Lena nodded slowly. "You think she's hiding something." Mr. Grant leaned forward. "Maybe. Or maybe she's trying to climb fast. Maybe she wants my job." Everyone went quiet. Then Rowan said, "What do you want us to do?" Mr. Grant smiled. "We'll test her. We'll give her something big. A report she can't finish. Then when she fails, we'll show her place." That afternoon, Mr. Grant called Amara to his office. He gave her a large file, thicker than any she had seen before. "This is the quarterly financial review," he said. "It usually takes a full week to finish, but I want you to do it in 2 days." Amara looked at the file calmly. 2 days?" she asked, not with fear, but with curiosity. "Yes," Mr. Grant said, hiding a smirk. "If you're as good as everyone says, you should have no problem." Amara held the file in both hands and nodded. "I'll start now." Back at her desk, she opened the file and began reading. Numbers, graphs, budget summaries, expense records. It was a complex report. Any normal assistant would struggle. But Amara was not just normal. She had studied finance at one of the top universities in the country. Her father had personally trained her. She had learned how to read company reports before she turned 18. Still, she didn't rush. She wanted to do it right. Over the next 2 days, Amara barely took a break. She didn't join others for lunch. She didn't chat. Her eyes were always on the screen or the papers. Samir, the intern, watched her from afar. One afternoon, he walked over and placed a cup of coffee on her desk. "You haven't moved in hours," he said kindly. Amara looked up and smiled. "Thank you, Samir. That's very kind." "You okay?" he asked. She nodded, just focused. "Some people are waiting for me to fall." Samir looked confused. "Why?" Amara didn't answer. She just returned to her work. By the end of the second day, just 1 hour before the deadline, Amara walked into Mr. Grant's office with the finished report. He looked up, surprised. "You're done?" he asked. "Yes, sir," she replied. "And I checked everything twice." He took the report and opened the first few pages. His smile slowly faded. Every section was done. Every number was in place. Graphs, summaries, recommendations, all completed. He looked up. "You can go." Amara nodded and left the room. Mr. Grant stared at the report in silence. He felt something he hadn't felt in years. Threatened. That evening, Mr. Grant called Lena again. "This girl is too sharp, too calm. I want to know where she came from. Check her resume again. Her background. Her family." Lena looked unsure. "Sir, is that allowed?" Mr. Grant glared. "Just do it quietly. I want to know everything about her." The next day, Lena came to Mr. Grant's office with a pale face. "I looked into her background like you asked," she said quietly. "And?" he asked, leaning forward. Lena hesitated. "Her father's name. It's Akil Rahman." Mr. Grant's face froze. Back at the office, a storm was coming. Mr. Grant knew he had made a mistake. But what he didn't know was, the company was about to receive a visit. A powerful guest would walk through the doors of Kingswell Industries soon, and nothing would ever be the same again. "Akil Rahman," he repeated. "Yes, the business tycoon. Silent investor in many top firms, including Kingswell." Mr. Grant stood up slowly. His heart beat faster. This couldn't be true. "Why didn't she say anything?" he asked. Lena shrugged. Maybe she wanted to work without being treated special. Mr. Grant sank back into his chair. The same girl he tried to humiliate was the daughter of one of the most powerful men in the business world. He felt cold all over. In the office, people noticed something had changed. Mr. Grant was quiet. He stopped giving Amara extra work. He even said "good job" once in the hallway. People whispered, "What's going on? Why is the manager so polite now? Did she say something to HR?" But Amara said nothing. She just kept working as usual. Calm, silent, focused. Only Samir noticed her eyes looked a little sad now, like she was tired of pretending. That night, Amara sat at her father's study. He looked at her and asked gently, "Is it time?" She nodded slowly. "They're starting to find out." He smiled softly. "Let them. The truth was always going to rise." Amara leaned back in the chair. "They treated me like I was nothing. Laughed at my clothes, ignored my work. But you never stopped being you," her father said. "And that's what makes you stronger than them." The next Monday morning started like any other. Employees walked in with sleepy eyes, holding coffee cups. Keyboards clicked. Phones rang. The office floor buzzed with quiet gossip. But something felt different. The receptionist, Nisha, looked nervous. She kept fixing her hair and sitting up straight. Samir, the intern, noticed it first. "Everything okay?" he asked her softly. She nodded but whispered, "We got an email. Someone very important is visiting today. No name given, just instructions to be ready." Samir raised his eyebrows. "Who?" "No idea," she said, "but the whole top floor is alert." On the third floor, Mr. Grant was already sweating. He had received the same email. "CSUODFIDENTIAL VIP visitor. Prepare a TM or surprise Kin." It didn't say who, but he had a feeling. A very bad feeling. He looked toward Amara's desk. She was typing as usual, calm and focused. He still remembered what Lena told him last week. Her father is Akil Rahman. He hadn't told anyone else. Not yet. He was still trying to figure out what to do. Should he apologize? Should he pretend he never mistreated her? His stomach twisted. At 10:30 a.m. sharp, a black car pulled up outside Kingswell Industries. The door opened. A tall man in a gray suit stepped out. His salt and pepper beard gave him a serious look, but his eyes were warm and wise. It was Mr. Akil Rahman. Two company directors were already waiting for him outside. They shook his hand quickly. "Sir, we didn't expect you to come in person," one said, smiling nervously. Mr. Rahman gave a calm nod. "I wanted to see the company my daughter chose. Let's keep the visit simple. No special welcome. I just want to walk the office." The directors looked confused. "Your daughter?" one asked. But Mr. Rahman was already walking toward the entrance. Back inside, Amara received a text. "Dad is here. He's entering now." From her driver, who waited in the car. She calmly closed the message and stood up. She walked to the restroom quietly. Some staff noticed and wondered where she was going. When Mr. Rahman entered the third floor, everyone stood up immediately. He nodded politely. "Please, keep working. I don't like too much attention." Mr. Grant ran forward. "Sir, it's such an honor. We didn't know." Mr. Rahman stopped him with a wave of his hand. "I'm just here to observe." His voice was calm, but powerful. He began walking through the room, looking at desks, glancing at computer screens. Some employees smiled nervously. Others pretended to work harder. But one desk was empty. Amara's. Mr. Grant noticed and panicked inside. Where is she? Why is she not here now of all times? Just then, the elevator opened. Amara stepped out. She had changed. Gone were the plain clothes. Now she wore a dark blue business suit, sharp, elegant, and perfectly tailored. Her hair was neatly tied back, and a soft glow of confidence shone on her face. Everyone turned to look. Samir's jaw dropped. Even the receptionist from downstairs had followed the visitor to this floor, and she gasped when she saw Amara. Whispers flew across the room. "That's her. She's his daughter." "No way." Amara walked straight toward Mr. Rahman. He turned to face her, and his eyes softened. "Daughter," he said warmly. "Father," she replied, with a small respectful bow. Mr. Grant's face turned pale. Mr. Rahman turned to the entire room. "I know many of you are surprised," he said, his voice clear. "Yes, Amara is my daughter, but she did not come here with my name. She came here to work like any other employee. She wanted to see how people are treated when no one knows who they are." The room went silent. No one could speak. He looked around slowly. "Some of you treated her with kindness, some with silence, and some with disrespect." His eyes landed on Mr. Grant. The manager swallowed hard. "I believe true leadership is shown not when you know someone's background, but when you respect every person equally," Mr. Rahman continued. "From receptionist to intern, from janitor to CEO." Amara stood beside him, silent but strong. Samir looked at her with admiration. Others looked down, ashamed. Mr. Grant took a step forward. "Sir, I wasn't aware. Had I known—" Mr. Rahman raised his hand. "That's exactly the point. You shouldn't have to know someone's power to treat them with basic respect." Grant froze. A heavy silence filled the room. Then Mr. Rahman turned to Amara. "Would you like to speak?" She nodded and stepped forward. Her voice was gentle but firm. "I didn't come here to test anyone," she said. "I came here to learn, to understand how people behave when they think someone is less. I was judged by my clothes, my seat in the cafeteria, and my silence. But I saw everything. I remember everything." People looked away. Some employees felt ashamed. Some felt guilty. And some, like Samir, felt proud of how they had treated her. Amara continued, "There are good people here. I thank those who showed kindness even when others didn't. But this company needs change, real change, and I'm ready to help that happen." Mr. Rahman smiled. He looked at the directors behind him. "I will be investing more in this company, but only under one condition." The directors leaned in. "That my daughter is given the position she deserves," he said. She's not just here to observe anymore. She's here to lead. Everyone gasped. Amara would now be in a leadership position. Mr. Grant nearly fell back. That evening, as the day ended, Samir walked up to Amara. "You knew everything all along?" he asked softly. She smiled. "Yes. Why didn't you say anything?" "Because people show their truth when they think you're no one." Samir nodded slowly. "I'm glad I sat with you on your second day." She looked at him kindly. "So am I." The office would never be the same again. A quiet woman had walked in with no title, no luxury. And now she stood at the top, with strength, grace, and the power to change everything. The next day at Kingswell Industries felt completely different. Everyone came to work early. People looked around nervously. Some were excited. Some were scared. And some were still trying to understand what had just happened. Just yesterday, Amara was sitting quietly at her desk, dressed in simple clothes, doing her job with no complaints. Today, she was in charge. And her father, Mr. Akil Rahman, one of the most respected businessmen in the country, had announced her new role. The woman everyone ignored or mocked was now the director of staff operations, a role that meant she would work directly with every department. She wasn't just a visitor anymore. She was now their boss. Amara walked into the office with confidence, but without pride. She wore a simple cream suit and had her hair tied back in a neat bun. She smiled at Samir, nodded to Nisha the receptionist, and even greeted the janitor with a warm good morning. People watched her closely. Some whispered, "She's changed." Others said, "No, maybe she was always like this. We just didn't see it." In the meeting room at 10 a.m., Amara held her first official team session. About 30 employees were seated. Mr. Grant was there too, quiet, nervous, and sitting in the corner. Amara stood at the front, holding a small notebook. Her voice was calm and clear. "I want to begin this meeting by saying, this isn't about revenge." Everyone listened closely. "Yes, some people mistreated me. Some ignored me. But I also met people who were kind without knowing anything about me." She glanced at Samir for a brief second. He smiled quietly. "This company has good people," she continued. "But we also have serious problems: unfair treatment, lack of respect, and managers who think power is more important than kindness." Some managers shifted in their seats, uncomfortable. Amara took a deep breath. "We are not here to fire everyone. We are here to change the culture." Later that day, she held one-on-one meetings with department heads. When it was Mr. Grant's turn, he walked in slowly. He looked like a different man, tired, quiet, and unsure of himself. "Sit," Amara said gently. He sat. There was silence for a few seconds. Then Amara spoke. "You were not kind to me." Mr. Grant lowered his head. "I know. And I'm truly sorry. I was wrong." Amara studied his face. "Why did you treat me like that?" He hesitated. "Because you looked different. You didn't act like someone important. I thought you were just." He stopped. Amara finished his sentence softly. "Just a nobody." He nodded slowly, ashamed. Amara leaned back in her chair. "I could fire you. I have every reason to. But I won't." Mr. Grant looked surprised. She continued, "I want you to fix what you broke. Not just with me, but with others. Treat people better. Guide your team with respect. Can you do that?" Mr. Grant nodded quickly. "Yes. Yes, I can." "Good," Amara said. "Then we begin again." News of Amara's leadership style spread fast. She wasn't harsh. She wasn't loud. But she was firm, fair, and focused. She started small changes: new lunch breaks for junior staff, better seats in the cafeteria, and open-door sessions where any employee could talk to her about problems. She personally visited every department. She even asked the janitor about his working hours. "Are they fair?" she asked him. The man was shocked. "No one ever asked me that," he said softly. Amara smiled. I'm asking now. Employees slowly began to open up. A woman in finance told her, "Thank you for giving us hope." A young man in it said, "You make me want to stay with this company." Even the HR team, once cold and distant, started offering better support to staff after Amara introduced a new training program on respect and inclusion. One day, during lunch, Amara walked into the break room. Samir was sitting with a few interns. They stood up quickly when they saw her. "Please, sit," she smiled. "I'm not here to scare anyone." She sat down beside them. "Samir," she said, "do you remember what you told me on my second day?" He thought for a moment. "I said, don't let people treat you like you're invisible." She nodded. "And I never forgot that." He smiled, a little embarrassed. "You have good instincts," Amara said. "That's why I want you to work directly with my team." Samir's eyes widened. "Me? Really?" "Yes. You saw me as a person before you saw my name." "That's rare." He nodded, too emotional to speak. By the end of the week, Kingswell Industries felt like a new company. People smiled more. They helped each other. And they talked about Amara, the woman who came in quietly, watched everything, and then changed everything. No one cared about her expensive clothes or powerful father anymore. They respected her because of her actions, not her name. The changes in Kingswell Industries were not small anymore. They were big, real, and powerful. People started to feel proud to work at the company again. The halls were no longer filled with cold looks or whispered gossip. Now there was respect, teamwork, and even quiet laughter. All this had happened because of one woman, Amara. But her journey was not over yet. There were still some people who didn't believe she deserved her position. Some said, "She's only here because of her father." Others whispered, "She's trying to look good, but she'll leave in a few weeks." Amara heard all of it, but said nothing. She knew that true change didn't happen with just power. It happened through consistency, patience, and kindness. One day, Amara decided to visit a small department that most leaders ignored, the shipping team. It was in the basement, far from the main offices. When she walked in, a few workers stood up, confused. "No one from management ever comes here," one man said. Amara smiled warmly. "I'm not just from management," she said. "I'm here to learn from you." She spent the next hour asking questions about the packaging system, delivery times, and even how the team was treated. One young worker told her, "We often feel forgotten." Amara nodded. "Not anymore." Before leaving, she gave them new chairs, updated systems, and a better break schedule. That same evening, the young worker posted on the company's social page, "The new director came to our basement. She asked for nothing, but gave us everything." That post went viral inside the company. People from other branches started noticing. A week later, Amara was invited to speak at a company-wide leadership event. Her father, Mr. Akil Rahman, was in the front row. It was the first time many employees saw them together. Amara stood on the stage, calm and confident. She looked around the hall. Over 200 people were watching. She began. "When I first came to Kingswell, I wore simple clothes. I didn't bring a big name or fancy bag. I just brought myself." People nodded, remembering. "I was judged by my skin, my silence, and my seat at the back. But I never felt weak. I was watching, listening, learning." She paused for a moment. "Some treated me badly. Some helped me quietly. But I stayed because I believed this company could become something better. Now we are becoming that." Applause filled the room. Amara continued, "Respect is not given because of titles. It's earned through action. Every voice matters, whether it comes from the top floor or the basement." Her words hit deeply. Even Mr. Grant, who once mocked her, stood up and clapped. After the speech, Mr. Rahman walked up to her with pride in his eyes. "You've done more in a few weeks than some people do in years," he said. Amara smiled softly. I didn't need a fancy desk to make a difference. I just needed a chance. In the days that followed, Amara introduced new programs at the company. One was called Respect First, a training series where employees shared stories of kindness and lessons in humility. She invited Samir to lead one of the sessions. He nervously stepped onto the stage and spoke about his first conversation with Amara. She was sitting alone in the cafeteria, he told the group. Others ignored her, but something in my heart said, "Be kind." He paused, then smiled. Turns out, I wasn't just kind to a worker, I was kind to the future of this company. The crowd laughed and clapped. Amara smiled from her seat, but not everything was perfect. One evening, Amara stayed late at the office. She found a letter on her desk. It had no name. Inside, it read, "I was one of those people who judged you. I laughed at you behind your back. I thought you were nothing. But you have changed my heart. Thank you for not giving up on people like me." Amara folded the letter gently. She didn't need to know who wrote it. The message was enough. She whispered to herself, "This is why I'm here." Even the company's clients noticed the difference. One day, a longtime client visited the office and said to Mr. Rahman, "Your team feels happier. The energy is different." Mr. Rahman smiled and replied, "That's because someone reminded them how to treat each other." Soon, a magazine published an article about the company's transformation. The headline read, "The woman they ignored became the leader they needed." Under the photo was a short line, "Amara Rahman, the quiet leader with the loudest impact." Kingswell Industries was no longer just a business. It had become a story of respect, redemption, and realization. And at the center of that story stood Amara, the woman who arrived quietly but changed everything. Months passed at Kingswell Industries. The company that once had cold halls and heavy silence was now filled with light, smiles, and soft laughter. People held the doors open for each other. Managers listened before speaking. And the once ignored voices were now at the front of every conversation. All of this happened because of one woman, Amara Rahman. But even after all the changes, Amara still lived simply. She still took her tea from the small break room. She still greeted every staff member with warmth. And she never bragged. She only worked. She only led with kindness, strength, and patience. One morning, a message arrived from an international leadership council. It was an invitation. Amara had been nominated for Leader of the Year, an award given to people who changed their workplace with compassion and courage. Her name was chosen from thousands. She was shocked. But her father wasn't. He smiled gently and said, "The world finally sees what I always knew." The awards event was in London. It was a grand hall filled with CEOs, government officials, and famous leaders. Amara wore a simple navy blue dress. No diamond necklace. No designer bag. Just herself. Just like the first day she walked into Kingswell. But this time, when she entered the room, everyone stood up. People whispered her name with respect. She's the one who led by listening. She's the woman whose story went viral. She's the reason Kingswell is now one of the best places to work. When it was her turn to speak, Amara walked onto the stage quietly. The crowd was silent, waiting. She looked at them and smiled gently. Then she spoke. "I didn't start with power. I didn't walk in with a title or a plan. I walked in as a simple woman with open eyes. Some laughed at me. Some ignored me. One even said I didn't belong. But I stayed quiet, not because I was weak, but because I was watching." She paused. Kindness is power. Humility is strength. And respect. Respect is everything. You don't change a company by shouting. You change it by listening, acting, and believing in people, even when they don't believe in you. The hall erupted in applause. Some even had tears in their eyes. Amara's father clapped the loudest. She stepped off the stage, holding the glass award in her hand. But more than that, she held something greater, respect. When Amara returned home, something amazing was waiting at the Kingswell office. The employees had planned a surprise celebration. There were balloons, lights, and a huge banner that read, "Welcome back, Leader of the Year." Amara laughed for the first time in a long time. A full, happy laugh. She hugged Samir, who had helped plan the event. Even Mr. Grant handed her a small bouquet with a quiet smile. "There was a time," he said softly, "when I didn't see you." Amara nodded gently. "Now you do." At the end of the day, as people left for home, Amara sat alone in the main hall. The lights were low. The air was quiet. She looked around at the office that had once ignored her. Now it loved her. She picked up her phone and wrote a message. It was a note for all employees. Respect does not cost money. It only takes heart. Start your day with kindness. End it with courage. Because even one quiet person can change everything. She hit send. The next morning, that message was printed and framed at every floor of the company. Visitors read it. New employees studied it. Old ones memorized it. And so, the story came full circle. The woman who walked into the office alone. The one who sat at the back, laughed at by a manager. The one whose skin and silence made others judge her. She became the leader everyone wished they could be. Not by shouting. Not by firing people. Not by being someone else. But by being herself. Final scene. Optional for YouTube. Samir walks past the company wall. He stops and looks at a photo frame. It shows Amara standing with her staff, all smiling. Below it, a quote is written, "Never underestimate the quiet ones. They might just change the world." A few months had passed since Amara won the Leader of the Year award. Kingswell Industries was now known not just for its business success, but for its culture of kindness, diversity, and respect. New job applications flooded in. Talented people from all over the country wanted to work there, not because of money, but because of Amara's story. Everyone called her the heart of Kingswell. But Amara still stayed humble. She never let the title change her. One rainy morning, Amara sat at her desk, sipping her usual cup of tea. Her window faced the city skyline, but she wasn't looking at it. She was reading a letter. It was handwritten, slightly shaky, and filled with emotion. It read, "Dear Miss Amara, I used to be angry. I used to judge others too fast. But your story made me look at myself in the mirror. You changed my heart. I work at another company now, and I'm trying to treat people better. Thank you for showing me what a true leader is." Tears filled Amara's eyes. It wasn't the award, the office, or the respect she cared about most. It was this, the quiet change of hearts. Later that week, Amara received a special call. A local university wanted her to give a speech to young students about leadership and strength. She agreed. When she walked into the university auditorium, over 500 students stood and clapped. Some already knew her story from social media. Others had seen her magazine interview. Amara stood on stage, calm and steady, like always. Then she asked the students a question. "Raise your hand if someone once judged you unfairly." Almost every hand went up. "Now, raise your hand if you stayed silent, not because you were weak, but because you were strong." Again, many hands. Amara smiled gently. "That silence, that patience, can be your power. I'm not standing here because I shouted louder than others. I'm standing here because I didn't let the noise break me." The room was still. Many students had tears in their eyes. Amara added, "You don't have to wear power on your clothes. Wear it in your actions. Carry it in how you treat others. That is the kind of leader the world needs." The students gave her a standing ovation. After the event, a shy girl walked up to Amara. She wore thick glasses, and her hands trembled a little. "Miss Amara," she whispered, "people make fun of me at school because I don't talk much. But after hearing you, I feel like maybe I don't need to change. Maybe I'm okay." Amara knelt down and held the girl's hands. "You're not just okay," she said softly. "You're special. One day, they'll listen to you too." Back at Kingswell, life continued, but something was about to change. Mr. Akil Rahman, Amara's father, called for a company meeting. He stood on the stage, holding a silver box. "I started this company many years ago," he said, "but it's time for me to step back." A murmur went through the crowd. He turned to Amara. "And it's time for someone wiser, kinder, and stronger to take my place." He opened the box and handed Amara the CEO nameplate. The room exploded in cheers. Some cried. Others stood up in pride. Samir shouted, "Finally." Mr. Grant clapped with a big smile. Amara was now not just the director. She was the CEO. But even after the celebration, Amara stayed the same. She still visited the basement shipping team. She still sat with new interns at lunch. She still replied to every kind message with care. Because she hadn't taken the long road to become important. She had taken it to make others feel important. On her first official day as CEO, Amara made one final request. She wanted the company's plane, the same one from her very first flight, to be painted with a new slogan. It now read, "Respect is the real first class." Underneath, a small line was printed, "In honor of Seat 14A." That plane flew across cities and countries. People saw the message. Some Googled the story. And slowly, her story became bigger than just one company. It became a lesson.